Some of you already know, I was the guardian for 3 budgies that communicated in sophisticated conversational language, and developed full-blown speech. They talked about how they could channel the spiritual world, and they are the source of these amazing audio and video presentations. If you are new, you are going to hear some things that are a little bit hard to believe. However, we provide solid evidence that these budgies are communicating, in full-blown speech in both forward and reverse. We call the reverse speech, a quantum reversal. Even more important, they testify in their own words about how they are connected to God and can communicate through the angels. You will be able to witness these communications yourself, through each presentation. The hardest part is learning the accent and pronunciation of budgie speech. In presentation 6, Victor called themselves Sentinels of the Future. And this is the first time in history that budgies began communicating this way, channeling messages from the angels. In this series of 70 presentations, we will be demonstrating living prophecy, to an extent the world has never seen or heard before. The truth is, we believe here at the Angel Scrolls that this is one of the most important events that has come to pass in modern day, relating to spiritual evolution. And when God and the angels can communicate in such a miraculous way, there are a multitude of things they can pass on to us. Their goal is to prevent pain and suffering and guide humanity on a better path for spiritual growth. In the past 20 years or so, I've headed up many forums and websites, some of which were very successful. Due to the complexity of what was happening, and the controversial content, those in disagreement created issues, which resulted in me deciding to shut down most of the forums I was working with. In 2017, something different happened. God and the angels have given us a plan, so this does not happen again. They have provided us ways to reverse the efforts of the small percentage of people, who for one reason or the other are trying to suppress this source of heavenly knowledge. In 2017, something different happened. God and the angels have given us a plan, so this does not happen again. They have provided us ways to reverse the efforts of the small percentage of people, who for one reason or the other are trying to suppress this source of heavenly knowledge. If you saw Victor's Superconscious Bird Part 1, the angels talked about God's new system and plan. This video continues from there, and was shot in the same day as Part 1, just later on in the day. So before we hear the video, I am going to brief you on what he is talking about in the first 4 paragraphs. Please keep in mind that I often say that Victor says these things, but in reality, what he says is really coming from the angels, who are channeling through him and the people in the videos. This is done in a miraculous way so others can witness and hear this wondrous event as well. He talks about how in the future, there will be people coming with their questions, using the new system. In 2017, I was prompted by the angels to start a new system by using forward and reverse speech, to show how miraculous these communications really are. I will be doing at least 70 of these presentations over the next couple of years. When Victor speaks of new visionaries, he refers to what we call the people who were, and will get involved in the early stages of this project. As they come, we hope they will play an important role, in the future of a new religion from God, that will see extraordinary events during its development. It will have a continuous channel that will be open to God and His angels throughout the entire process. Victor also mentions that timing is important. I believe he means that people, more than ever, are opening up to spirituality, and the spiritual nature of God, where they may not have been ready for something like this, 10 or 20 years ago. In Part 2, when he talks about resolving an easy way for the visionaries to function, he is setting up the content for what he is going to lecture about in this video. He also mentions quantum reverse, and how the angels have been providing me with theories on how this entire miracle is taking place. In Part 4 he talks about how many will be interested in learning this, and he also predicts the issues we have had over the years, well after he transcended to the spiritual world. So this is another video of his that is full of living prophecy, and divine messages. Now let's hear parts 1 to 4.
Look this way, Victor.
Over the last couple of years, we realize how much help we need to get this project moving. Especially when it comes to establishing a forum that people will come to and participate in. I used to have the time for posting regularly to forums I managed, but now I am spending most of the time doing the transcriptions. Additionally, things have changed much in the last 10 years. Most forums make it quite hard to post a video up, without being a participating member, and there are a lot of rules when it comes to promoting something like this. For example, look at Reddit. Each subreddit has different posting rules, and they have bots that will remove your post, even before moderators get a chance to look at them. So this even makes it more difficult to get participation, and make comments these days. It would be nice to partner with someone with an existing forum, that already has a lot of people who are open to spirituality. Even that can be a problem when you're trying to teach a new way of thinking when it comes to belief systems. The main thing is, we do not ask anyone to change their religion, we just ask them to be open to what is being taught from the angels. More so, many people believe they have all the answers, and would rather be teachers than students, and promotion of oneself can also become an issue in a forum, where the angels are the ones teaching. What we ask is they learn first, and become witnesses, at which point they too, can become teachers. At that point they will be able to pass on to others what God wants us to know. The plentiful lessons that God has provided, are methodically placed in time, so the teaching process will evolve in a miraculous way. The only thing missing, at this point is the participation. Our vision, is to first get things started with about 10 or 20 devoted visionaries and let them participate and witness the miracles themselves. Once they begin to learn and believe, they will have a choice to pass on what they have learned. In continuing with the video, in part 5 to 8, Victor talks about those who cause problems, and when some are given warnings, they will often act as victims to get others to side with them. He also talks about some of the challenges that will be brought to the forum, because of religious evil. He speaks specifically to those who believe it is only an act on his part. And Victor says that if he only came to act, then at least it would be nice to have an admission from people that his videos are precious. He also talks about how his recordings are much different than other videos you might see on the internet where budgies only repeat what their guardians taught them. Lastly, he talks about how some will come and try to affect every aspect of what the angels are trying to teach us. So we should deal with it accordingly.
So now you can hear parts 5 to 8.
In a part of a previous video, Victor talked about God's food, in one form as knowledge for the soul, and how we will need it in the future. In the next parts, he continues that train of thought, and talks about things that he has planted, and grown. He talks about how people will be called here by God, when the time is right. He tries to explain why we are worried about the challengers, and troublemakers, and says you can never defeat them, unless you have a plan to stop them. So he's beginning to set up the rules and regulations of God's forum, by letting us know, that those who are escorted by evil, will need to be moderated before they reach the forum, and we'll have to point them out. In part 12, he answers the question, how will others know if these people who try to cause problems are truthful or not? He says that we will be able to tell by the questions they ask, and the questions or remarks, will provide the rest with the facts that we base our warnings on, or ask people to leave when needed. Over the last 10 years, we have seen many of these policies and procedures already occurring in forums that 10 years ago, would not even have been considered. So if you do not come here to learn, we have no problem with you observing, but we are not going to try and force you to learn if you do not want to.
Now you can hear parts 9 to 12.
In the next parts, he continues to talk about how the people would think in the forum, saying that some will support and welcome it when we have to deal with any issues that pop up. And those that are helping will be advised of the reasons. He says, if there are people in the forum, who just won't believe it, they should not be part of the process. And if they are given early warnings, they should be ignored until they possibly have a change of heart. He also says that most of the people will know who is there to cause issues, and they will be able to tell by the amount of effort one puts into understanding what is happening. So that probably means, please do not jump to conclusions about how we deal with issues until you are knowledgeable about all the facts that lead up to the warning or removal from the group. One of the main issues now being that people join and immediately put up an ad or something to direct to another website, and they are automatically banned when that happens. In part 12, he asks the question, is it okay to talk about parrots? In previous forums, after Victor passed, I felt bad when I had to tell people who were interested only in parrot intelligence, and not in the spiritual aspect of what was happening, to limit their discussions about parrot intelligence. Otherwise, it turned into nothing but conversations about parrots, and those who were there to learn the things that were being taught, were not learning at the rate they could have been. That goes for many things. Especially when it comes to comparing what is happening here, to one's own new wave spiritual beliefs. The problem comes, when we open it up to all the belief systems out there, and it turns into a discussion on an off-topic, that can last for days. Sometimes hard feelings are caused because of it. Many things will be covered in future lessons that will confirm one thing or another, with direct input from God and His angels. And there is a system put in place to answer any questions that visionaries may have. So we ask for a little bit of discretion in certain areas, for there is a reason we have to get on with the more important stuff being channeled to us.
So now you can hear part 13 to 17.
In part 18 to 20, he continues on with resolving any future issues we might have in the forum. I am sure he says these things much more elegantly than me, so I hope I don't offend anyone. He talks about taking what you have learned so far, and protecting it by not letting others fog the facts, or open a culture that does not necessarily agree with the lessons we are receiving. This is truly an area we will have to work on in the future. Now I'd like to thank God and the angels for trusting me as they continuously encourage and help me along the way. I often wonder how and when I could have done something better. I do think I have evolved quite a lot since I started, and I believe I will be able to manage much better in forums in the future.
So now you can listen to it.
In this next part, Victor talks about some of the reasons I have had periods of confusion and discouragement in the past. It has been difficult, over the years, but the joy oversees any issues I have had while doing this. Can you imagine being first to hear these messages and being able to pass them on, to the best of my abilities? I know, whenever a miracle happens, most people are going to have a hard time believing it. I often felt like the sad soldier myself, for there were times when the angels passed on admonishments for those who were taking us in the wrong direction.
Now you can hear parts 22 to part 25.
Tell me a joke, Victor. Have you got a joke for Ryan? Yeah, I would like you. Tell us your fart joke.
In the final part of the video, Ryan will be narrating it himself instead of using the voice that has spoke for him during the first part.
The last part of this video is very interesting, especially when Victor says, the future may exist in this channel to heaven. I do not think he means that without it the future will not exist. He means that the angels are communicating from the future. He says it was the future that caused him to talk as well. When you listen to the lessons, it is true that you will find something living in every lesson. Later on, some of them will be in real-time communications with the angels, and usually in the lesson there be something that stands out and relevant to what's happening at the time it is published. For example, someone may have a question they ask God, and the answer will come with the next video. In his final statement, he talks about how we will repeat the miracle when the new visionaries come. That miracle will be an answer to a question in the form given to me prior to the question being asked, or you'll be told of a future event just prior to it happening in the news. We call these confirmations, and they provide proof that God and his angels know what's going to happen in the future. These prophecies can help us accept God's direction when he begins to provide us with solutions and a plan that will help prevent pain and suffering in the future.
What'd you say? Put the what? Hell with the passenger.
That completes this presentation. To hear more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit our website at theangelscrolls.com.